Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Naaman with the DC Camp Branch Great Millstone back for another video. First and foremost, call all Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Rakahakwadash. Double honors once again go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who are well. I'd like to also send out salutations to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and byways, and also putting up many videos to get the word out. All right, get the word out, and it's proven to be working. Because more and more, hey, you got people that are being aware, but you also got people that are coming up against us. All right, that's prophecy. All right, so yes, here we are once again. Man, see, when we tell you how wicked and these Edomites, these so-called self-proclaimed white people are, that's exactly what we mean, and they're showing it more every day. This situation here, now, we've all been, at least I think most of you are aware of, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? Yeah, okay, well, whatever. Well, here is the Ohio State Attorney General trying to get Mr.Hintons' ability to raise funds, all right, so he can be provided with a defense, all right? Just like everybody else, just like all these others that were permitted to do so when they killed one of us. But no, they got the big dog. This is the highest, this is the top of the line law enforcement officer of the state of Ohio coming out as the Attorney General of the United States, as chief law enforcement officer of the United States. So on the state, here's the big dog of the state coming down and saying, no, we got to put a stop to this now. Think about that. Let's roll the video.
All right. Peace and blessings, all praises to the Most High. I just got wind of this press conference given by the Ohio State.
Hold on, I almost forgot. I got to do it. Hold on. While it's fresh in my mind, because I'll go the whole video. All right, this is copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational or personal use tips to balance in favor of fair use. All right. So here we go.
I just got wind of this press conference given by the Ohio State Attorney General actually denouncing Rodney Hinton Jr.'s ability to raise funds on Give, Send, Go. Now, a lot of people I've been trying to donate to him, and Give, Send, Go has been gracious enough to help people in Rodney's position, whereas GoFundMe has not. But I want you guys to listen to the gall of this Attorney General, who has nothing to do with the case, try to dissuade people from donating to our dear brother in his defense funds. Just listen to this, and we're going to break this down.
I'm going to mention the name out of respect to the family, but it is an important topic. So at this point, I'm going to have AG Davios come up. We'll hear from a couple other speakers, and then we'll take questions at the end. Thank you.
All right, now this chick talking about she's not going to mention the name out of respect for the families. But what about all of the other names you've mentioned of officers who have killed innocent black men, just like Ryan Hinton Jr.? But we're going to continue. I'm going to try not to stop it so much, but, this is very appalling.
Thank you for all being here today. I want to begin by publicly expressing my continuing sorrow at the senseless murder of Deputy Henderson. I had the honor of standing witness at his funeral. However, we are not in the Attorney General's office engaged with this case. If we were, some of the things I'm about to say, I probably shouldn't say, and I want to make it clear that our non-involvement is a precondition to my presence here today.
All right, first of all, he starts off with offering condolences to the officer's family. Once again, none of these people, the Attorney General, the police chief, sheriff, DA, court, only the coroner offered condolences to Ryan Hinton's family. It's like Ryan Hinton's death never happened, and the only death that happened in this situation is the deputies.
The only one that mattered.
GoFundMe, which is the common phrase for crowdfunding sites, it's only one of several sites that do that kind of work. GoFundMe actually is a good actor in this matter. One of their competitors is helping to raise money for the defendant in the murder case of Deputy Henderson. And I am appealing to them today to take down this site and to refund the money to the donors. Appealing to them not as a matter of law, because under current Ohio law, there are significant limits to what I can do, but appealing to their sense of conscience, to the people that own and run this site. I would suggest that maybe they ought to listen to the goals of the founders of Google, whose motto early on was, "Don't be evil."
Stop right there. So would you suggest all of the other people who have donated to the hundreds of officers and white men who have killed black people, would you suggest them also to don't be evil? You can't have it both ways. You can't have it one way, sir. So you're going to call the people who are donating to Rodney Hinton evil. You also have to call those who donated to Kyle Rittenhouse, Dylan Roof, Darren Henderson, the police who killed Tamir Rice, Mike Brown, all of those people too. So don't have it one way.
This is not a close call. There are things that I can certainly understand why a business might take the position, hey, we are a platform, we're a facility, we don't judge. And that would make a lot of sense. You don't want political popularity or unpopularity to be driving your business decisions. But this isn't a matter that is subject to that kind of a call. This ought to be a thing that everybody, right, left, in the middle, or outside the spectrum altogether, can condemn and say, this is not right. This is not good. We shouldn't be crowdfunding an evildoer.
We shouldn't be crowdfunding an evildoer. So all of these police that have received crowdfunding, the Metcalf, all of everybody who is white who has killed somebody and received crowdfunding, you've never condemned them. So you're a hypocrite, whoever you are. I'm not going to.
And that's why when we go to Job 20th chapter, I'm sure you already know where I'm going here. What does it say? All right, about the joy of the hypocrite. Because, hey, they're in their kingdom, right? Let's go to Job 20. All right. It says the wicked will suffer. That's the topic here. All right. And going on down, 4, knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. All right. So we're not to worry about people like this, because we know that, hey, they're on their way out. But for him to get up there and open his mouth and let the words come out of his mouth that are coming out and just ignore the shit in the past. What about Tamir Rice? You know, and all these Daniel Penny, what he did. Clearly the guy couldn't defend himself. because he had other people holding him down. Live execution right there on for everyone to see. And then he gets to sit in the what is that? I guess the owner's box at the Super Bowl with the president. Man, there you go. So that's why you're not, well, let's continue on. Though his excellency mount up to the heavens and his head reach into the clouds, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? And that will be a joyous day. To get up here, you being the chief, as he said before he started into it, he said, he know he shouldn't, but this is that hatred towards Jake that's overriding his logic, letting you know to the extent of his hatred for us. This man has not been found guilty of any crime. He's been charged. I mean, are you listening to this?
Hypocrite, whoever you are. I'm not going to say your name out of respect for the Hinton family.
Now, the competitor to this site, GoFundMe, is a good citizen in this matter. They actually have a policy that says we don't do crowdfunding for people who are accused of violent crime. This is a good policy. It is consistent with public policy. And in fact, there were several attempts to start a GoFundMe page for the defendant in this case. And GoFundMe, consistent with their policy, took those pages down as soon as they found them and sent them.
See, here's my take on this. And this is all going to lead up into 2 Ezra 15. From 15 on down, verse 15 on down. All right? They're not going to regard, indeed, because of shit like this, because everyone's seeing that this is bullshit. All right? This is straight up one-sided, them against us. All right? And people have been aware of this for some time. Don't be fooled. All right? But, especially when it comes to them folks, in fact, the stats say those are the ones that are killing them off. All right? It's not Jake. All right? But yet they come at Jake like, like we're the major threat to them. And I'm talking about law enforcement, by the way, when you look up the stats. All right? But, hey, they do us in. They get rewarded. They get, in the case of, what's that asshole's name? Damn it. I think it is Penny. He's a millionaire because of what he did. Rittenhouse, he's broke, but he's coming out of, from in the sewers because he's broke. So he's got to open his mouth about the young man down in Texas. Damn it. It'll come to me. But, yeah. So, lines are being drawn, like we always say. And they're letting you know, with this shit going on with the South Africans, the Dutch South Africans, that lie that they told about them being, refugees and being, slaughtered for their land. But you have to consider this too, with them deporting Northern Kingdom Jake, which, let's be honest, they set themselves up as well as all the other immigrants that came over here because they all did what? They jumped on the bandwagon and allied themselves with so-called white supremacy against us. And now look at them. But for those of you that are laughing at them, I would suggest that you don't, because all this just goes to prove that we're being isolated. And again, with those Dutch South Africans, how many of them going to come over here? Who do you think is going to eventually end up on the police forces? All right. Things of that nature. Think about that. All right.
Money back to the donors. That's what should happen here. Well, we have had several questions. There was, some of you may remember, the Son of Sam law, the Berkowitz case in New York, created laws at the state level around the country. We have one here that prevents the selling of the story for personal gain from the commission of a crime. I've looked at that statute. I've also looked at Title 17 of the Ohio Revised Code, which discusses the rules and...
Unless, of course, it's by one of them. And this is another scripture that comes to mind because this is what he's trying to do here. And this is Psalms 94 and 20. It says, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee? For all you jakes that are, you firm believers in law and order, looking through the eyes of these devils. All right. It says, which frameth mischief by a law. Well, what do you think that means? Here it is. They're trying to cut this guy off at the ankles, Mr. Hinton, before he even has a chance to defend himself. Isaiah 10:1, all these wicked bullshit ass laws that are just aimed at crippling Jake. All right.
Title 17 of the Ohio Revised Code, which discusses the rules and requirements around charitable fundraising.
So for a patient that it's been determined you can't save their teeth, you need to remove all
charitable fundraising.
Again, something else you must remember here with all this, and they love to throw shit in Jake's face. They will do things to spite us, like giving everybody else what do you call that? Anti-hate bill. That's what I was trying to think of. Anti-hate bill, but you go into the FBI's crime statistics, who's the ones that are being, most hate crimes against. But we've been here for all these centuries and we can't get it. But see, they keep playing these games. Again, why wouldn't you want to be in that mindset of wanting to get the fuck up out of here, wanting this place to do like that plantation down Louisiana? Burn, baby, burn, right?
And I don't see anything at the moment that jumps out as a clear legal theory under current law. The Son of Sam law was not written. In fact, it was before we had such a thing as crowdfunding, a relatively recent phenomenon. It may well be that the General Assembly of Ohio should undertake to pass a law that would regulate this kind of thing as being contrary to the public interest. It would be, I think, pretty easy to enact a law that made GoFundMe's policy the policy of the state, that you may not do crowdfunding for someone accused of a violent crime.
Now, they want to change the law in this case, but you changed the law. You never changed the law in the case of the officer who killed Tamir Rice right in your state. And he surely received crowdfunding as well. So why did you not change the law in this case when that man is, I guess that man is not an evildoer?
Be that as it may, it is my hope today that the platform will itself, because it is the right thing to do, follow their own path. Their terms of service allow them to be to cancel a page if it's a violation of community standards. I certainly think that the murder of a law enforcement officer is something that would violate violate this community's standards, and I'm calling upon them to voluntarily do the right thing.
So the murder of a 12-year-old doesn't violate, a 12-year-old black kid doesn't violate community standards and Tamir rights. What about Christian Black, who was just murdered by officers in jail? What about the young man who was, I think his name was Martin, that was just killed in Cleveland at the Staples store? And we can go on and on and on. So none of those killings violate community standards. Why? Because those killings were white people killing black people. And those white people just so happen to have a frivolous badge, right?
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to have Zachary Gottsman come up. He is the attorney representing the Henderson family.
Thank you, Bethany. My name is Zach Gottsman. I am counsel for the Henderson family. First, as an initial matter, I would like to thank General Yost for coming forward to address this disgraceful situation.
So the killing of Ryan Hinton was not disgraceful. You see how these people just take a situation and take a similar situation and just ignore the disgracefulness of that situation. If that situation, the killing of Ryan Hinton, didn't happen, we wouldn't allegedly have this situation. But everybody is stone-faced and stoic about that.
While the Attorney General has limited tools at his disposal on how to respond to this situation, there are legal and equitable claims available to the family that are more broad and give them more tools at their disposal. It is our intention to pursue all claims at their disposal to the fullest extent possible, because it is shocking to the conscience that Give, Send, Go would host a campaign for fundraising for someone who murdered a Hamilton County Sheriff's deputy.
What about all the campaigns that have been held for those deputies and police officers who've murdered innocent black men?
It's a flagrant violation of Ohio public policy that anyone should profit from their criminal acts. And it is our intention as attorneys for the family to take legal actions to put an end to that and to recover any proceeds, ensure that those proceeds are disgorged so that this criminal and his family do not profit based on the death of this deputy.
Now look at him. He's going to try to take legal action to shut the man's Give, Send, Go down. If you shut it down, we're going to still find a way to get the man money. I got people already calling saying, okay, how can we get him the money directly to him? So what are you trying to do, you evil, behemoth, barbaric, nonverbal animal, you trying to dissuade the people to help him while all white people are allowed to give to murderous cops and murderous white men like George Zimmerman and those people like that. And it's not a disgrace. It's not a, they're not criminals. Or only when black people band together to help black people, then it's a different story.
Thank you.
Now watch this.
At this time, we will take questions from the media.
These fundraisers claim to be set up by people related to Ryan Hinton's family. Do you have any understanding of whether they are actually connected to the family or any concerns about whether they might not be?
So we have not looked into the identity verification that this particular site uses. So I don't know whether there is sufficient cause to believe that they are. On the other hand, I also don't know that there are any reasons to disbelieve it. I would think that the family, if somebody was pirating this, so to speak, they probably would have said something by now.
Have you reached out to this particular company, try to call them, contact them, and see if they take it down?
Yeah, we sent a letter.
Did you get any response from that at all?
Not yet. We just sent.
We don't know if they may be open to that.
Yeah, I'd love to see them do that.
So under the campaign, this particular one, it says prohibited campaigns, it says benefit groups that support physical violence of any kind. Are you guys trying to make that argument that in this case it's not?
Well, look, these kinds of things are first of all, is that the GoFundMe rules or? That's there. Okay. It is not necessarily that we're making the argument, although I think that you can make that argument. These are internal terms of service. They get to choose whether they live by them. They are not enforceable in the sense of I can go in and compel them to live up to their own terms of service.
So, Attorney General Yost, this money is presumably being raised to present a defense for someone who is accused.
There we go.
How can you be against someone trying to get the best defense possible?
Thank you. Then that's what I was going to say when he called him a criminal. What happened to innocent until proven guilty? You are supposed to be a representative of the law as an attorney general, but you're going to say this person did this, did that. He has not been convicted as of yet. I don't know who that reporter is, but I appreciate you because he probably going to have no answer. Now, granted, I haven't listened to this. I was about to shut it off, but that's a great question.
Well, for starters, if you read the page, that's not what it says. It says that they're raising money for the decisions the family may have to make. I don't know what that means. It certainly seems quite a bit broader than we're trying to raise money. But the bottom line is that I think it should be the policy of Ohio that crowdfunding platforms are not permitted to raise money on the backs of a notorious and disgusting crime.
Once again, he has not been convicted of that crime. You keep saying disgusting, notorious. There's no court of law that says he has done this. Those are words coming from your mouth and your mouth only. The police mouth, there are no eyewitnesses. There is no other claims, but the police are saying that the man did this. So once again, this is hypocrisy in action. When everyone who is accused of a crime is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And if this is going to help him prove himself innocent, then there should be no problem with you being an attorney general and a lawyer who upholds the law.
Period.
That's one of the basics. All right. Well, not this. They're trying to do this with the illegal immigrants, but these are basic tenets of American so-called law. You have a right to a defense. All right, especially with something like this. But again, they're trying to fix this. There's another video of where they subpoenaed the medical examiner in this the same case. All right, and it's like they're trying to move this along so quickly. And she was when you watch the let's see, how am I going to do this? Let's go a little bit more than this, and then I'll go to that one.
But it is a crime that is been accused, not convicted.
And you know what?
You're trying to get a defense.
Thank you.
Raise money for the defense of a crime.
Well, first of all, that's not what the page says, and I'm going to
he's trying to deflect now. Talking about, first of all, that's not what the page said, but that's not what he's saying. He's still accused of a crime. You keep saying, you acting like this man is convicted. You see how he's getting mad and evil? Right there, when you call evil at their evilness, they even get more eviler. And that's not a word, but I just made it up.
To push back on your bad facts. But beyond the bad facts, there's a constitutional right to have a crime or to have a defense against crime. And the city of Cincinnati and the county of Hamilton and the state of Ohio are going to provide an indigent defendant with the resources to do that.
And as everyone knows, all right, you get railroaded because they're actually working for them too, all right? Because I'm pretty sure what they're trying to do is to prevent a like a temporary insanity. They're trying to prevent him from using that in his defense. So they're trying to get you a run-of-the-mill, probably fresh out of, or even first or second year, someone who's still wet behind the ears. They're not going to get, they're trying to prevent him from getting someone that's seasoned in criminal law to defend against, what they're trying to do. All right, this is their strategy.
If they're unable to provide it for themselves, that's different than going out on the street and.
See, it appears, I should say, it appears to be their strategy. You got to remember, one of the big things, the hatred for OJ was because he had the means. All right. Again, Cosby, even though they railroaded him, he still had the means.
Using technology to crowdfund nationally, I think that it's a horrible use of the charitable system, and I'm against it.
See, look, he can't give you no real answer. He's talking about, well, we're going to provide a defense for him if he's indigent. No, he don't have to be indigent. We know what your defense brings. Court-appointed lawyers, everybody who had a court-appointed lawyer and has been accused of a major crime, we know what those defenses bring. Mm-hmm. So you can cut that. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it's just a horrible tragedy to use public funding, for that defense. No, if he got people to support him like Zimmerman, like Rittenhouse, like every other white killer accused of a crime, then why shouldn't he be able to use those resources? Only because, as he said, I'm against it.
Yeah, I'm going to go to another video on the same site, like I just told you. Now here, here's the medical examiner.
There's no way a bullet could have.
Hamilton County coroner is discussing the death of 18-year-old Ryan Hinton. Hinton was killed by Cincinnati police earlier this month. WCPO 9 News reporter Andrew Rowan shares what his preliminary autopsy reveals.
At her office, the coroner said Ryan Hinton had 3 gunshot wounds, one in and out of the left forearm, another, which may have been from the same bullet, but it's possible it was a separate one, started in on the side chest, went through the heart and came out of the chest near the sternum. That was the lethal shot. And then there was one more gunshot wound.
And it was in the right posterolateral chest, adjacent to the shoulder, and it was soft tissue only. It traveled beneath the skin and ended just beneath the skull, and we were able to retrieve that bullet.
So you're saying he was shot in the back?
No, I said he was shot in the right posterolateral near the shoulder.
Dr. Lack.
Let's look that up, right? Let's see, right? Hold on, let me move this. Hold on. Oh, crap. Let's see. Post-lateral. What did she say? Branch. Let's see. No. What did she say? Damn it. Hold on.
Dr. Lakshmi Samarko would not discuss how that gunshot ended at the base of his skull.
You're going to have to talk to somebody about that because, again,
Hamilton County coroner is discussing the death of 18-year-old Ryan Hinton. Hinton was killed by Cincinnati police earlier this month. WCPO 9 News reporter Andrew Rowan shares what his preliminary autopsy reveals.
At her office, the coroner said Ryan Hinton had 3 gunshot wounds, one in and out of the left forearm, another, which may have been from the same bullet, but it's possible it was a separate one, started in on the side chest, went through the heart, and came out of the chest near the sternum. That was the lethal shot, and then there was one more gunshot wound.
And it was in the right posterolateral chest, adjacent to the shoulder, and it was soft tissue only.
See, she's using, okay, thoracic cavity, so that's chest. All right, let's see. Let's just continue on because you should be able to catch on what she's doing.
And it was soft tissue only. It traveled beneath the skin and ended just beneath the skull, and we were able to retrieve that bullet.
So you're saying he was shot in the back?
No, I said he was shot in the right posterolateral near the shoulder.
Dr. Lakshmi Samarkar would not discuss how that gunshot ended at the base of his skull.
You're going to have to talk to somebody about that because, again, I can't comment on the body cam footage or what position his body was in at the time.
Community tensions have risen after an officer shot and killed the 18-year-old earlier this month. Police say Hinton pointed a gun at the officer.
His manner of death is homicide.
On Thursday, the coroner received a grand jury subpoena. Samarco says it is the first time it's happened in the county in 40 years. But still, she released preliminary autopsy results.
We wanted to present you with the actual facts and not have conjecture out there.
Do you worry it could taint a grand jury?
What I'm presenting?
Yeah, more facts.
Any more than anything else that's already been out in the press? These are just facts. They're going to get the facts anyway.
The coroner wouldn't answer my question about when she's going to go in front of the grand jury. If the prosecutor does bring the case to that point.
Let me look up something real quick. Let's see. All right. Either she's Elam. I missed the X. Let's look her up. Because you had the chief white-splaining what you were just seeing there in the video, and they kept, no, let the whole video run. No, they would just pause it so you could look at stills, all right, and then they white-splain that, all right, but see, like I say, the fix is in. Let's see who this, yep, India, she's Elon, figured. Yep. Yeah. There she is. Democratic Party, whatever. That don't mean not one thing.
To that point, Tanya, those jurors would be responsible for deciding if the officer will face any charges.
All right, Andrew, I understand we are hearing from the Hinton family tonight about this.
Yeah, an attorney for their family is saying they are waiting for their own independent autopsy results to come back. That is in addition to multiple investigations by law enforcement into the shooting. But the family is also saying they are disappointed to see elected officials, in their words, joust to the first to...
That's another reason they need funds in order, it's more than just, especially in a case like this, it's more than just, that's part of the defense. They got to get their own autopsy done. All right, let's see. What was I looking at? Damn it. I lost my train of thought. Maybe to come back to me.
Joust to the first to get information about the shooting to the public. It's an apparent jab at the multiple press conferences that have been held since the shooting. Tanya?
All right, peace and blessings, all praises to the Most High. Psalms 37:14 says, the wicked draw their swords and bend their bows to strike down the poor and the needy, but their swords will pierce their own hearts and their bows will break. And in the case of Ryan Hinton, who was struck down by the wicked cops, this coroner's report revealed what many people have suspected, that Ryan Hinton was shot in the back. And from what I'm gathering from what she's saying is that he was shot by another officer. As you heard the reporter say, are you saying he was shot in the back? No, he was shot in the right postal lateral, which means right here. But we're going to break down her entire press conference to see how she is being very evasive when she's talking about that shot, but she's very particular and exact when she's talking about the shot that came from the left side where the officer was. Now, I'm also going to show you the body cam footage so we can...
Before he gets there, let's go to the scriptures once again, because dealing with these so-called experts, as that medical examiner surely would qualify as being. Here we go. This is Job 13:4 says, but ye are forgers of lies, ye are all physicians of no value. And when you go into that, all right, let's see. Let's go into commentary. And this is from Jamison Fawcett Brown. And it says, forgers of lies, literally artful twisters of vain speeches. All right, and when we go back, let's continue on. You watch this.
Now, I'm also going to show you the body cam footage so we can review how it is completely impossible for the officer to shoot him from this side and also from that side. And also we're going to talk about how the grand jury subpoenaed her, because the press conference was supposed to be held Friday, but the grand jury subpoenaed her. And I think in an attempt to make sure that she says what they want her to say and don't say what they don't want her to say. Check out how evasive this coroner is while talking about that shot that came from the right post lateral, as she says, which means anytime you're talking about post, you mean past, rear. There's no way he can be shot from the left side and the right side by the same officer. So just check this press conference out. We're going to break it down piece by piece.
Well, ready? All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming at such short notice, and I know it was rather short notice. So first I want to address having to cancel the press conference on Friday. As you know, we were served with grand jury support.
See, for you so-called 90%, you dumb bitches out there that still pining for Kamala Harris, this is her people here. They hate our people, all right?
And in my 13 years as coroner, I've never been served with a grand jury subpoena. And I looked into it, and I believe, at least in the history of Hamilton County in the last 40 years, that hasn't happened to any of the coroners. So this was new territory. We had to learn some things. We had to consult some people. We had to ask a lot of questions. And so I decided putting off the press conference until we got some answers was the better way to handle things. So thank you for coming for the delayed press conference, shall we say, postponed. In the interim, I understand that some of the autopsy findings have been relayed to the public. And I just thought that the public should hear that from us, from our office directly, so that they get the facts straight and so that the information is correct. I want to start off with saying, first of all, our condolences to the grieving families, because this is not easy for anybody. And no matter what our victims in this, and they're not just the people that have passed away. It's really the family members who are left to deal with their grief. So in the interest of hopefully easing some of the pain and also to be able to provide the media, and you have sent me many written requests asking for the preliminary autopsy findings. And we've always worked well together, and the truth to the public. So I'm counting on you to do that here. And so I thought I will give you a copy of this when I'm done with the press conference. But I wanted to at least give you the preliminary autopsy findings.
All right, so before she says that, now, she said that she has never seen where the grand jury subpoenaed a coroner. And once again, I think that they tried to subpoena her to make sure that she says what they want her to say and make sure she doesn't say what they don't want her to say. But I do commend her because she did something that I have not yet seen anyone do in a press conference, and that is offer condolences to Mr. Hintons' family. Not the DA, not the police, not the sheriff, not the news media. No one else has offered condolences to the family. So she did receive my respect for that. But as you'll see during this interview, she's going to be very vague about certain questions that is asked about that particular right shot that was asked about by the reporter in the first clip. And you're going to hear him ask that same thing here. And she's going to be very evasive when answering how that could have happened.
And Mr. Hinton had 3 gunshot wounds to his body. And this is in no particular order, but there was one in the left forearm, and there was an entrance wound and an exit wound, and it was soft tissue injury only. Did not contact any bone, and just skin wounds, entrance and exit. There was a second gunshot wound in the left lateral chest, so underneath the axilla, meaning the armpit, and that one did traverse the chest, and it did traverse through the left ventricle, and it exited the chest near the sternum. We believe that is the lethal wound. There was a third, basically just beneath the skin wound, and it was in the right posterolateral chest, adjacent to the shoulder, and it was soft tissue only. It traveled beneath the skin and ended just beneath the skull, and we were able to retrieve that bullet. So Mr. Hinton's cause of death is a gunshot wound to the torso, largely a lethal wound. And his manner of death is homicide. So I wanted to make sure you got the exact facts from us and relay that to the public. And again, there are no words to express our grief and our sorrow to the family members. And we hope that this provides some solace to know the actual facts.
You ready to take questions?
I'm ready to take questions, but they're going to be limited to our portion of the investigation.
So can you talk about that, the bullet wound that killed him? Did that go through his arm and then enter his chest? Is that one bullet?
There is a possibility that that could have been the same bullet, because when you're running, usually you've got a position and you're running back and forth like this. So it's possible that the same bullet traversed the left forearm and into the left side of the chest.
If the bullet that killed him went in his side and out his sternum, which is his chest, does that mean he was shot from slightly behind?
No, it was straight from the side. This is mid-lateral side. And if you're asking why did it go toward the front, it did contact a rib on the way. So, as you know, when projectiles, and you can talk to somebody who's a physics expert or a firearms expert, when they hit something solid, they tend to deflect.
And did you recover that bullet, or was it the other? That was the one you did not?
Yeah, no, there were.
All right, so you see how exact that she's talking about this shot. Now, the reporter asked a great question. How did it go in his side and come out of his chest? Does that mean he was shot at a slightly rearward angle, right? And then she said, well, no, it hit a rib and it went under his scilla, which means armpit. Now, that's going to be very important, how she's distinguishing the medical terms from the layman's terms in this description. But watch when she gets to the post-lateral chest and they're going to ask her, hey, does this mean he was shot in the back? No, he was shot in the post-lateral such and such and such, which means, okay, well, why you can't make that a layman's terms like you just did the armpit and the scilla? But let's continue.
Pieces of that bullet that we recovered, but not the entire bullet, no.
And he basically bled to death, then what happened?
We didn't have a scene response. We only responded to the hospital, so I'm not sure what happened at the scene. So.
The able to retreat from the right posterolateral chest. Are you saying he was shot?
It was recovered from the neck, just below the skull.
So you're saying he was shot in the back?
No, I said he was shot in the right posterolateral near the shoulder.
Almost that.
Now, you see what she did there, right? The first one, she said, well, it went into his scilla, which is the armpit, right? But when he asked her, okay, are you saying he was shot in the back? And she said, no, he was shot in the right postal lateral. And what that means is right here. And so why couldn't she just say, well, no, he was shot in the rear shoulder instead of using that medical term? And she's going to keep being evasive when asked for clarification on this.
Angle that you see in that body cam.
I'm so grateful to have such a strong fan base.
In that body cam.
I cannot comment on the body cam. First of all, there was so much motion, and I am not a body cam expert. I get a little motion sick anyway, so that's not.
Well, that reporter is asked, okay, well, look, how could that handle happen from the angle of the body cam? Now, she's saying, well, I can't comment on the body cam. I don't understand that. And that, I think, is part of that subpoena that she received saying, look, you better not say this and you better not say that. Play stupid, play dumb, because we know what everybody saw is not going to match what we're trying to say happened.
My cup of tea, so you're going to have to ask somebody about the body cam footage. Yeah.
So can you then talk about where that bullet entered that body in plain speak and where it exited?
Plain speak.
It entered the side of the chest and impacted the left 7th rib.
Now, you see how exact when that officer, look, I mean, that reporter says, look, tell us in plain speak, where did that bullet enter? It said it entered the left side of the chest, in the sternum, and hit a seventh rib. You know, she's using very understandable terms when she's describing the quote-unquote kill shot.
And then it traveled through the left side of the chest, through the left ventricle, and then out the front.
And then the other bullet, how would that bullet have, in plain speak, entered in it?
In plain speak now.
It entered, plain speaking, I mean, I'm a physician. This is right posterolateral chest is, near the shoulder, and then traveled up underneath the skin, and then ended at the base of the skull without impacting bone or anything along the way. It was all soft tissue beneath the.
Now, she did say, okay, well, I'm a physician. It's right posterolateral, near the shoulder, and she actually pointed where it was. But she could have just said in the back right here. So she tried to be evasive, but she couldn't avoid it because the guy said in plain speak, tell us in plain speak, just like he told us a while ago, stop saying the post-lateral, just say in the back of the shoulder. But she's continued to be evasive throughout this clarification process.
Skin.
That would have had to be then as he was going down.
You're going to have to talk to somebody about that because, again, I can't comment on the body cam footage or what position his body was in at the time.
Now the guy asked her, okay, well, how could that happen? That had to be happened when he was going down, unless he was shot by somebody else. And then she goes into her, I don't know nothing attitude. Whether you got to ask them about the body cam footage. We're not talking about the camera footage. We're talking about how could that bullet enter into that side of his body when the officer is shooting from the left side of his body. They said the bullet entered to the right shoulder and traveled up to his spine. Now, that officer who we saw shooting could have not.
And I can't also tell you which gunshot wound preceded which. I don't know the order. I can just tell you the gunshot wounds there are 3 entrance wounds and 2 exit wounds.
But it's possible that there were only two bullets that hit.
It's possible.
From a legal perspective, what allows you to talk today that didn't allow you on Friday?
I didn't know that I wasn't allowed on Friday, but I didn't have enough information, and that's why I had to postpone the press conference until I gathered some more information about what my requirements were with respect to the grand jury subpoena, and that's why I took the time to get the information before I proceeded with the press conference.
What does that mean that you got this subpoena then?
I don't know what that means. I mean, it's a grand jury subpoena asking for materials, and like I said, I've never had one before in the office, so that's why I need to find out what that meant.
It didn't stop you from relaying any of this information.
Now she's saying again, okay, well, why? I didn't know what they wanted, but they wanted some information, and I didn't know, why did they call me there? So I decided to delay the press conference. We know why they called you there, to make sure that you didn't say he was shot in the back, in the upper part of his back. Just keep using medical terminology.
So there you have it. I'm not going to, you can watch the rest of it. I post the whole videos for, and the link in the description box for both videos. But yeah, that's it. These people are just wicked. They're evil. All right. Like Job 9:24 says, let's get that real quick. Now close out. Since we're in Job. All right, let's go. Job 9:24. All right. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? If it's not this Edomite, this so-called, this self-described white man. Who is it then? Who is the wicked? So with that, hey, until the next video, hey, shalom.